My mother's voice came through the phone like ice. "We don't need another distraction at the table." I stood there in my kitchen, holding my cell phone, watching my 8-year-old daughter Harper dance around the living room to some song only she could hear. Distraction. That's what my own mother called my little girl. 20 years of family Thanksgivings, and this was the first time I wasn't invited. My brother Jason's family of 4? Still welcome. But Harper and me? We were the problem. My mother's tone was rehearsed, like she'd practiced this speech. The line went dead. I stood there staring at my phone like it might suddenly ring again with an apology, with my mother saying she didn't mean it. That of course Harper was invited. But the screen stayed black. Harper twirled into the kitchen, her brown hair flying around her shoulders. "Daddy, what did Grandma say? Are we bringing the sweet potato casserole?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She had my eyes, that same shade of hazel that changed color depending on the light. She had her mother's smile, though I hadn't seen Lauren in 3 years. Harper was wearing her favorite purple dress, with the sparkly stars on it, already excited about Thanksgiving, even though it was still 3 days away. I knelt down to her level. "How would you feel about having our own special Thanksgiving? Just you and me?" Her face lit up. "Like a party? Just us?" "Exactly like a party." She threw her arms around my neck. "That sounds perfect, Daddy." But it wasn't perfect. Nothing about this was perfect. 2 years ago, when Harper was 6, we finally got the diagnosis: attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The doctor explained it carefully, told us about treatment options, about how Harper's brain was just wired differently. She wasn't bad or difficult. She was energetic, creative, impulsive, and wonderful. The medication helped. The therapy helped. But my family? They didn't help. My parents started making comments at family gatherings. "Can't you control her? She needs discipline, not pills. Why is she so loud?" My brother, Jason's kids, Tyler and Emma, were always held up as examples. "Look how well behaved they are. Look how they sit still at dinner." It started small. Harper wasn't invited to my niece Emma's birthday party because there would be too many kids, and Harper might get overstimulated. Then she wasn't invited to the family reunion at the lake because the boat rides might be too exciting for her. Each exclusion came with an excuse that sounded reasonable until you realized it was always Harper getting left out. And now, Thanksgiving. I spent Tuesday afternoon at the grocery store with Harper in tow. She helped me pick out everything we needed. A small turkey, just 8 pounds. Because there were only 2 of us. Fresh, green beans. Potatoes for mashing. Ingredients for pumpkin pie. She insisted on getting the fancy cranberry sauce in the glass jar instead of the canned kind. "This one tastes better, Daddy. Trust me." I trusted her. I always trusted her. Wednesday evening, I pulled out my grandmother's old recipe box, the one my mother gave me years ago when I first moved into my own place. I found the card for stuffing, written in my grandmother's shaky handwriting. Harper sat at the kitchen table, carefully tearing bread into small pieces for the stuffing while I chopped celery and onions. "Tell me about Great-Grandma Rose," she said. "She would have loved you," I said. "She would have thought you were perfect exactly the way you are." Thursday morning arrived with gray skies and cold wind rattling my apartment windows. We got up early, and I let Harper help with everything. She measured ingredients, stirred the mashed potatoes, and arranged the green beans on the baking sheet. The kitchen was chaos. There was flour on the counter, potato peels in the sink, and somehow, Harper had gotten cranberry sauce on her forehead. But we were laughing, and that's what mattered. By 2 o'clock, everything was ready. I'd set up our small dining table with actual cloth napkins and the nice plates I usually kept in the cabinet. Harper had made a centerpiece out of construction paper turkeys. We lit 2 candles and sat down, just the 2 of us. "What are you thankful for?" I asked her. She thought about it seriously, her face scrunched up in concentration. "I'm thankful for you, Daddy, and for my teacher, Mrs. Patterson, and for our apartment, and for Princess, even though she's just a stuffed cat." She paused, then added quietly, "I'm thankful you didn't leave me like Mommy did." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Harper's mother, my ex-wife Lauren, had walked out 3 years ago. She said she couldn't handle it anymore. "Handle what?" I'd asked. "Handle Harper needing more attention than other kids? Handle the therapy appointments? Handle having a daughter who wasn't easy? Lauren moved to California and sent a card twice a year. That was it. I reached across the table and took Harper's hand. I will never leave you. Ever. You're stuck with me forever. She grinned. Good. Because you're the best daddy in the whole world. We were just finishing our pie when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment, I wondered if it was my mother, if she'd changed her mind and come to apologize. But when I opened the door, my cousin Marcus stood there with his wife Dana, and their 2 kids, Lucas and Sophie. Marcus was holding 2 grocery bags full of food. He looked at me, and his jaw was set in that stubborn way I remembered from when we were kids. Nobody excludes family, Braden. We heard what happened. We're eating here. Before I could respond, another car pulled into the parking lot. My cousin Jessica climbed out with her husband Trevor and their toddler Aiden. Then my Aunt Patricia, my father's older sister, pulled up in her ancient Buick, carefully carrying 2 pies. Within 30 minutes, my tiny apartment was packed with 11 people. The adults squeezed around my small table and the kitchen counter. The kids sat on the floor in the living room with their plates. There was barely room to move, but nobody seemed to care. Harper was thrilled. She sat with Lucas and Sophie, chattering away about the turkey she'd helped cook. Marcus caught my eye and nodded. This is how it should be. But Aunt Patricia pulled me aside into my bedroom while everyone else was eating. Her face was serious, worried. She was 72 years old with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Braden, she said quietly, your mother didn't want this. Your father demanded it. What do you mean? There's something you need to know. This isn't just about Thanksgiving. Aunt Patricia sat on the edge of my bed, her hands folded in her lap. The sounds of my family laughing in the living room felt distant, like they were in another world. Your father held a meeting, she said. 2 weeks ago at his house. He invited me. Your Uncle Frank. Your cousins. Your brother. He called it a family discussion. About what? About you. About Harper. She looked at me with sad eyes. About cutting ties. My stomach dropped. What? Harold believes that Harper's condition is a result of bad parenting. He thinks if the family keeps supporting you, you'll never fix the problem. Those were his exact words. Fix the problem. Like Harper is something broken that needs to be repaired. I felt dizzy. I sat down next to Patricia. He gave everyone an ultimatum, she continued. Stop enabling Braden, or you're not welcome at family events. He said supporting you is the same as condoning your failure as a parent. Did my mother agree with this? Carol tried to argue. She wanted to invite you and Harper to Thanksgiving, but Harold shut her down. You know how he is. She backed down like she always does. And Jason? Patricia's mouth formed a thin line. Jason supported every word. He even added his own arguments. He talked about the family reputation, about how Harper's behavior reflects poorly on all of us. He suggested that if you can't parent Harper properly, maybe she'd be better off with someone who could. The words felt unreal. This was my brother. We grew up together. We built forts in the backyard and played basketball in the driveway. Now he was suggesting my daughter should be taken away from me? Marcus spoke up, Patricia said. So did Jessica and her husband. They said this was cruel and wrong. Frank agreed with them. That's when your father made it clear. Anyone who sided with you wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. So we all left. That's why you're all here, I said slowly. That's why we're all here. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You're not alone in this, Braden. Half the family is on your side, but the other half thinks I'm a failure. The other half is wrong. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but Braden, there's something else you should know. What? Your dad changed his will last month. I stared at him. The will? The construction business. It was supposed to be split between you and Jason when your parents passed. Now it all goes to Jason. Frank saw the paperwork because he's still the company accountant. Harold cut you out completely. I'd never cared about my father's construction business. I became a teacher because I loved working with kids, loved helping them discover literature and writing. The business was Jason's world, not mine. But being deliberately erased from the family legacy stung in a way I hadn't expected. There's more, Marcus said. Harold put a clause in there. The will specifically states that the business goes to Jason because he's the responsible son who raised his children properly. He put that in writing? In writing. Signed by a lawyer and everything. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a text from my mother. I'm sorry. Please come tomorrow. Your father wants to talk. He has papers for you to sign. It's important. Aunt Patricia leaned over to read the message. Her face went pale. Don't sign anything, Braden. I mean it. Whatever he wants, don't sign it. What do you think it is? I don't know. But your father doesn't do anything without a plan. If he wants you to sign papers, it's not in your best interest. Harper appeared in the doorway, her face bright with happiness. Daddy, Lucas wants to know if we can watch a movie. Can we? Of course, sweetheart. She ran back to the living room. I heard the kids arguing cheerfully about whether to watch a cartoon or an adventure movie. She doesn't know, does she? Patricia asked. About any of this? She knows her grandparents didn't invite her to Thanksgiving. She asked me why Grandpa doesn't love her anymore. I had no answer for that. Marcus sat down on the other side of me. We'll figure this out, man. Whatever your dad is planning, we'll face it together. But as I sat there between my aunt and my cousin, listening to my daughter laugh in the next room, I felt a cold dread settling into my bones. My father was a man who always got what he wanted. And right now he wanted me to sign something. I had no idea it would be so much worse than I imagined. Friday morning came too soon. I dropped Harper off at Marcus and Dana's house around 9 o'clock. Their kids were excited to have a play date, and Harper ran inside without a backward glance, already absorbed in whatever game Sophie was suggesting. Dana stood in the doorway. Take your time. She can stay as long as you need. Thank you. For everything. She smiled, but her eyes were worried. Be careful, Braden. I drove across town to my parents' house. The route was so familiar I could have driven it in my sleep. Past the elementary school where I'd gone as a kid. Past the pizza place where Dad used to take us every Friday night. Past the park where Jason and I learned to ride bikes. My parents' house sat at the end of a quiet street lined with oak trees. It was a large, two-story colonial with white siding and black shutters. My father had built it himself 30 years ago, back when his construction company was just starting to take off. A swing still hung from the oak tree in the front yard, the same one I'd played on as a child. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering my courage. Then I walked up the driveway and knocked on the door. My mother opened it. Carol was 64 years old, with gray, streaked brown hair she kept in a neat bob. She'd always been pretty in a quiet way, but today she looked tired. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. Braden, she said softly. Come in. The house smelled like coffee and the lavender potpourri my mother kept in bowls around the living room. Everything was exactly as I remembered. The family photos on the walls. The furniture that hadn't changed in decades. The grandfather clock in the hallway that chimed every hour. My father sat at the dining room table. Harold was 67 years old, a tall man with broad shoulders and hands that were calloused from years of construction work, even though he'd retired 5 years ago. His hair was completely gray now, cut short in a military style. He didn't stand when I entered. Sit down, he said. My brother Jason sat across from him. Jason was 2 years older than me, 35 to my 33. He had our father's build and our mother's eyes. His wife Courtney sat beside him, her blonde hair perfectly styled, wearing what I recognized as an expensive sweater. She looked like she'd just stepped out of a catalog. There was a manila folder on the table. I remained standing. What's this about, Dad? Sit down, he repeated. I pulled out a chair and sat, but I didn't relax. Every muscle in my body was tense. Harold opened the folder and slid papers across the table toward me. I've given this a lot of thought, and I've made a decision. For Harper's sake, I looked down at the papers. The words at the top made my blood run cold. Petition for emergency custody evaluation. What is this? Your mother and I are petitioning the court for a custody evaluation of Harper. We believe she's not receiving proper care under your supervision. My hands started shaking. You're trying to take my daughter? We're trying to help her, Jason said. Someone has to. Courtney leaned forward. Braden, we know this is hard to hear. But Harper needs stability. She needs structure. She needs proper discipline. not medication and therapy sessions. She has ADHD, I said through clenched teeth. She needs exactly what she's getting. Harold pulled out more papers from the folder. I've been documenting evidence for the past 3 months. He spread them across the table, like a card dealer. Photos of Harper's bedroom, toys scattered across the floor. Videos taken at family gatherings, showing Harper being energetic and loud. Screenshots of my text messages, where I'd mentioned being tired or stressed. A list of every therapy appointment, every medication refill, every school incident report. This is what we'll present to the court, Harold said. A child who's out of control. A father who's overwhelmed and making his daughter worse by pumping her full of drugs. They're not drugs, I said. They're prescribed medication from a licensed doctor. A doctor you chose, Jason said. A doctor who profits from keeping kids medicated. That's not how it works. Harold pushed another paper toward me. This is a voluntary custody transfer agreement. If you sign this, we can avoid a messy court battle. Your mother and I will take custody of Harper. You'll have supervised visitation. We'll get her the help she really needs. Help? I looked at my mother, who was standing by the kitchen doorway, crying silently. Mom, you can't seriously agree with this. She opened her mouth, but Harold cut her off. Carol agrees that Harper needs proper guidance. We raised 2 sons successfully. We can raise 1 granddaughter. I stood up so fast, my chair fell backward. I'm not signing anything. Harper stays with me. Then we'll see you in court, Harold said calmly. And you should know, I've already retained a lawyer, Graham Sterling. Perhaps you've heard of him. I had. Graham Sterling was known throughout the county for aggressive family law cases. He was expensive, ruthless, and usually won. The court date is set for 3 weeks from today, Harold continued. I've already submitted our initial filing. You should be receiving official notice in the next few days. You can't do this, I said, but even as I said it, I knew he could. He was doing it. This is about what's best for Harper, Jason said, not about what's convenient for you. Courtney added, once Harper is out of the picture, you can start over. Maybe find a normal woman who can give you normal kids. The words hung in the air. Out of the picture. Normal kids. And there it was. This wasn't really about Harper's ADHD or my parenting. This was about control. This was about Jason positioning himself as the successful son. This was about my father's need for a perfect family legacy where everyone fit into neat little boxes. Harold must have seen the realization on my face. I will not have my granddaughter being labeled as defective, he said. I will not have people in this town talking about the Anderson family like we can't raise children properly. Harper will be fixed, one way or another. She's not broken, I said. She's an embarrassment. The word hit me like a slap. I looked at my mother, desperately hoping she would say something. Anything. But Carol just stood there crying, not meeting my eyes. I have connections in this town, Harold said. I know Judge Morrison. We play golf together. Graham Sterling has never lost a custody case in this county. You're a high school teacher making $42,000 a year. You can barely afford your apartment, let alone a good lawyer. This is over before it starts. I picked up my car keys. I'm not signing anything, and I'm not giving up my daughter. Jason stood up. You're going to lose everything, Braden. Your daughter, your family, your reputation. All because you're too stubborn to admit you need help. The only people I need help with are all in this room. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Harold's voice, calm and cold. This is for your own good, son. You'll thank me when Harper grows up normal. I made it to my car before I started shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. I drove straight to a lawyer's office. Not Graham Sterling's kind of lawyer, the kind I could afford, which meant the kind who worked out of a strip mall office between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. His name was Robert Chen, and he looked like he hadn't slept in a week. His desk was buried under folders and coffee cups. He listened to my story, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he sighed. I'm going to be honest with you, Braden. Custody challenges are serious, especially when grandparents are involved. The courts give a lot of weight to the best interests of the child. But I'm a good father. I believe you. But your father has evidence. He has money. He has connections. And he's painting a picture that you're overwhelmed. What are my chances? Robert hesitated. In a fair fight, you'd probably win. Harper's therapist supports you. Her teachers will testify for you. But this isn't a fair fight. Your father knows Judge Morrison personally. Graham Sterling is going to tear apart every aspect of your life. What do? We build our case. We get statements from everyone who supports your parenting. We document everything Harper's doctors say. We show that you're providing excellent care, and we hope the judge sees through your father's manipulation. He didn't sound confident. I need a retainer of $10,000, Robert said apologetically. I know that's a lot, but custody cases require extensive preparation. $10,000. I had maybe $1,500 in my savings account. That evening, Marcus and Aunt Patricia came to my apartment after I picked up Harper. We sat in the kitchen while Harper watched a movie in the living room. I need to borrow money, I said. It was humiliating to admit. Marcus didn't hesitate. How much? $10,000. You've got it. I'll write you a check tomorrow. Aunt Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out her checkbook. I'm contributing $3,000. Don't argue with me. I can't ask you both to do this. You're not asking, Marcus said. We're offering. Family takes care of family, the real family anyway. Over the weekend, they helped me build my case. Marcus interviewed Harper's teachers, all of whom gave glowing reports. Her third-grade teacher, Mrs. Patterson, wrote a detailed letter about how Harper had blossomed this year, how the medication and therapy had helped her focus and thrive. Harper's therapist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, provided a comprehensive report supporting my parenting decisions. She outlined how I'd been proactive in seeking help for Harper, how I attended every session, how I implemented strategies at home. Aunt Patricia started a phone tree, calling every family member who'd been at Thanksgiving. They all agreed to provide statements or testify if needed. But on Monday, things started falling apart. I got a call from Harper's school principal, Mrs. Rodriguez. She sounded uncomfortable. Mr. Anderson, I wanted to let you know that we received an inquiry from your father about Harper's behavior records. An inquiry? He requested copies of all incident reports, attendance records, and academic performance reports for the past 2 years. As her grandfather, he claimed he had a right to the information for a legal matter. And you gave it to him? We're required to comply with legal requests. I'm sorry. I hung up feeling sick. My father was pulling strings everywhere, building his case piece by piece. On Tuesday, Robert called. We have a problem. Graham Sterling filed several affidavits this morning. Your brother and sister-in-law, 2 of your neighbors, and Harper's former soccer coach from last year. What do they say? That Harper is difficult, that she disrupts other children, that you seem overwhelmed and stressed. Your neighbors complained about noise from your apartment. The soccer coach mentioned that Harper had trouble following instructions during practice. But that's normal for kids with ADHD. That's exactly why she's in therapy. I know, but Sterling is weaving a narrative. Individually, these things are minor. Together, they paint a picture of a child who's out of control and a father who can't handle it. On Wednesday, I got an email that made everything worse. It was from Lauren, my ex-wife. The subject line read, "We need to talk about Harper." My hands shook as I opened it. Braden, I know we haven't talked in a long time. Your father contacted me last week. He told me about the custody case. He offered me $50,000 to testify about why I left. He wants me to say that you were unstable, that you were obsessive about Harper, that I left because of your behavior. I'm struggling out here in California. I'm behind on rent. I lost my job 3 months ago. $50,000 would change my life. I know it's wrong. I know I shouldn't even be considering it. But I wanted to give you a heads up. They're going to destroy you in court. Braden. I'm sorry. I read the email 3 times. Lauren was considering it. She might actually testify against me for money. I called her. She answered on the 3rd ring. Don't do this, I said, please. I need the money, she said. I'm about to be evicted. Harper is your daughter too. A daughter I haven't seen in 3 years. A daughter you made sure I had nothing to do with. That's not fair. You left. You chose to leave. She was silent for a moment. I know. And I've regretted it every day. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm broke and desperate. If you testify against me and I lose Harper, you'll never see her again. My father won't let you anywhere near her. Another long silence. I have to think about this, Braydon. I'll let you know what I decide. She hung up. I sat on my couch staring at nothing. In 2 weeks, I'd be in court fighting for my daughter. My father had money, connections, and a ruthless lawyer. He'd turned my brother against me, convinced my mother to go along with his plan, and now he was buying testimony from my ex-wife. Marcus found me there an hour later. He'd used his spare key to let himself in. He took one look at my face and said, "What happened?" I told him about Lauren. "We'll figure this out," he said, but he didn't sound certain anymore. That night, after Harper was asleep, I stood in her doorway watching her. She was curled up with Princess, her stuffed cat, her face peaceful in sleep. She had no idea that in 2 weeks, a judge might take her away from the only parent who'd never abandoned her. I'd never felt more powerless in my life. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare that kept getting worse. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I showed up to teach my high school English classes, but I wasn't really there. My students noticed. "Mr. Anderson, are you okay?" They'd ask, and I'd force a smile and say I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was drowning. Harper knew something was wrong. She'd always been perceptive, even with her ADHD. She'd catch me staring into space, or notice, when I startled, at unexpected sounds. "Daddy, are you sad?" she asked one evening. "I'm just tired, sweetheart." "Is it because of me?" "No, never because of you." But she didn't look convinced. On Monday, a week and a half before the court date, Harper had a meltdown at school. It wasn't her fault. Another kid had knocked over her art project, and after a stressful few weeks at home picking up on my anxiety, she just snapped. She yelled, threw paintbrushes, and refused to calm down until Mrs. Patterson took her to the quiet room. Principal Rodriguez called me immediately. The incident report was already written. And somehow, some way, my father had gotten himself added as an emergency contact. He received a copy of the report within an hour. Graham Sterling filed it as additional evidence that same day. On Wednesday, I had to ask Marcus for another $5,000. Robert needed more money for depositions and expert witnesses. I'd never felt so humiliated in my life, but Marcus handed over a check without hesitation. "You'd do the same for me," he said. On Thursday, a social worker showed up at my apartment unannounced. Her name was Angela Martinez, and she had kind eyes but a clipboard that terrified me. "Someone made an anonymous report," she explained. "I'm required to do a home inspection and interview Harper." "My father," I said. He made the report. She didn't confirm or deny it. "May I come in?" The inspection took 2 hours. She checked the refrigerator, the cleanliness of the apartment, the safety of Harper's bedroom. She asked Harper questions privately while I waited in my bedroom, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. When Angela finished, she was professional, but gave nothing away. "I'll file my report before your court date, Mr. Anderson. Thank you for your cooperation." After she left, Harper climbed into my lap. "That lady was nice. What did she want?" "Just checking to make sure you're happy and healthy." I told her I'm very happy. I told her you're the best daddy ever. I hugged her tight, wondering if it would be enough. Friday afternoon, everything fell apart completely. I was in the school parking lot, about to drive home, when Jason pulled up beside me. He got out of his truck and walked over. Other teachers were leaving for the weekend. Students were heading to their cars. This was deliberate. He wanted witnesses. "Braydon," he called out, "we need to talk. I don't have anything to say to you." He followed me as I walked to my car. "Just listen for a minute. Dad sent me with a final offer." I kept walking. Jason grabbed my arm. "People were watching now. Give Dad custody. You get supervised visitation twice a week. Everyone moves on. Harper gets the help she needs. You get your life back." I jerked my arm away. "Harper is my life." "Look at yourself," Jason said loudly. "You're falling apart. You're barely keeping it together at work. You can't afford this fight. Dad's lawyer is going to destroy you in court. He's going to bring up every mistake you've ever made. He's going to drag Lauren in to testify about what a controlling, obsessive father you are. He's going to paint you as unstable and unfit. Teachers and students were definitely watching now. My face burned with humiliation. You're going to lose everything, Jason continued. Your daughter, your family, your reputation in this town. All because you're too stubborn to admit you can't do this alone. Get away from me, I said. Think about what's best for Harper. Not your ego, her future. He walked back to his truck and drove away, leaving me standing there while everyone stared. That evening, I sat on my couch after Harper went to bed. My phone was in my hand. I'd been staring at it for an hour. Marcus called. Hey, just checking in. How are you holding up? I'm thinking about running, I admitted. Taking Harper and just leaving. Going somewhere my father can't find us. Braden, that would make everything worse. I know, but I can't lose her, Marcus. I can't watch them take her away from me. We're going to fight this. We're going to win. But his voice lacked conviction, and we both knew it. I hung up and sat in the dark. Sunday night became Monday morning. The court hearing was in 8 hours. I hadn't slept at all. At 2 a.m, I walked into Harper's room and watched her sleep. Her chest rose and fell steadily. Princess was tucked under her arm. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. She had no idea that when she woke up, everything might change forever. Monday morning arrived cold and gray. Harper and I got dressed in silence. I'd bought her a new dress for court. Navy blue and simple. She looked so grown up it made my chest ache. Why do I have to come, Daddy? The judge wants to meet you. Just be yourself, okay? Answer questions honestly. Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart. You're not in trouble. I promise. But I was lying. She was in trouble. We both were. The courthouse was a brick building downtown, built in the 1930s with columns and marble floors. Robert met us outside. He had dark circles under his eyes that matched mine. Remember, he said, stay calm no matter what they say. Don't lose your temper. Don't get defensive. Just tell the truth. We walked inside, through the metal detector, up the stairs to courtroom C. My father was already there with my mother, Jason, and Courtney. They were dressed like they were going to church. Harold wore a suit. Carol wore pearls. They looked respectable, established, trustworthy. Graham Sterling stood with them. He was in his 50s, tall and distinguished looking. Expensive suit and briefcase. He nodded at me like we were colleagues instead of opponents. We took our seats on opposite sides of the courtroom. Harper sat next to me, swinging her legs. She didn't understand the gravity of what was about to happen. All rise. Judge Morrison entered. He was 60 years old with gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He'd been a judge in this county for 20 years. The hearing began. Graham Sterling stood. Your Honor, we're here today because 2 loving grandparents are gravely concerned about their granddaughter's welfare. The evidence will show that the child in question, 8-year-old Harper Anderson, is not receiving adequate care from her father, Braden Anderson. Despite their best efforts to offer help and support, Mr. Anderson has refused assistance and continues down a path that is detrimental to his daughter's development. He presented his case methodically. The photos of Harper's messy room. The videos of her being loud and energetic at family gatherings. The school incident reports. The medication records. This is a child who's been labeled with a disorder and medicated, Sterling said, when what she really needs is structure, discipline, and proper guidance. Then came the testimony. Jason took the stand first. He was calm, sympathetic, concerned. He painted a picture of me as overwhelmed, defensive, refusing help. I've tried to talk to my brother multiple times, Jason said, but he won't listen. He insists Harper has ADHD, but I've seen my niece. She's just energetic. She needs boundaries, not pills. Courtney testified next. She talked about how exhausting Harper was at family events, how I always seemed stressed and tired. She mentioned times I'd snapped at family members or left events early because Harper was overstimulated. Under cross-examination, Robert tried to show that Harper's behavior was normal for a child with ADHD. But Courtney was prepared. She kept circling back to the same point. Harper would be better off with grandparents who have time, patience, and experience. Two neighbors testified. The Johnsons from upstairs mentioned loud noises, running, jumping, crying. They'd had to knock on my door 3 times in the past year to ask me to keep it down. Harper's former soccer coach testified that she'd had trouble following instructions, that she'd disrupted practice, that other parents had complained. Each piece of evidence alone was minor. Together, they formed a damning portrait. Then Lauren walked in. I hadn't seen my ex-wife in 3 years. She looked different, thinner. Her hair was shorter. She wore a gray pantsuit and heels. She didn't look at me as she walked to the witness stand. Graham Sterling guided her through her testimony. Why did your marriage end, Miss Thompson? Lauren used her maiden name now. We had different parenting philosophies. Braden became obsessed with Harper. Every small thing she did, he analyzed. When she was diagnosed with ADHD, it got worse. He insisted on medication, on therapy sessions, on treating her like she was fragile. Did you agree with the diagnosis? I thought she was just a spirited child, energetic, creative. But Braden wouldn't hear it. He pushed for the label. He pushed for the medication. It became the focus of our entire lives. Why did you leave? Because I couldn't watch him make our daughter into a patient instead of a child. I tried to get him to ease up, to let Harper be normal. He refused. He chose his way over our marriage. Do you believe Harper is receiving appropriate care? Lauren paused. She finally looked at me. I think Braden loves Harper, but I think he's in over his head. I think he needs help that he's too proud to accept. Graham Sterling smiled. No further questions. Robert's cross-examination tried to poke holes in her story. Isn't it true you abandoned your daughter 3 years ago? Isn't it true you've had minimal contact with Harper since? Isn't it true Mr. Harold Anderson offered you $50,000 to testify today? Lauren's lawyer objected. Judge Morrison sustained it. The question about the money was struck from the record. When Lauren stepped down, she walked past me without a word. Judge Morrison called a recess. In the hallway, I felt like I was suffocating. Harper tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, why was Mommy here? She wanted to see you, I lied. But she didn't even say hi to me. I know, baby, I'm sorry. When we returned, Robert presented our case. Harper's therapist, Dr. Mitchell, testified via video call about the progress Harper had made. Mrs. Patterson testified about Harper's academic improvement. Marcus testified about the Thanksgiving incident and my father's ultimatum. But Graham Sterling was good. He discredited Dr. Mitchell by suggesting she had a financial interest in keeping Harper in therapy. He painted Mrs. Patterson as biased toward me, as a fellow teacher. He made Marcus look like he was just supporting family regardless of facts. Then the social worker's report arrived. Angela Martinez's report was supposed to be neutral, and it was, mostly. She noted that my apartment was clean and safe, that Harper seemed happy and well cared for, that I was attentive and loving. But there was one line that Graham Sterling seized on. Child expressed fear of making daddy sad, suggesting possible emotional enmeshment and parentification concerns. Sterling jumped on it. Your Honor, this report shows that Harper's emotional well-being is suffering. She's being burdened with her father's emotional state. This is inappropriate and harmful. Robert tried to explain that it was normal for children to be concerned about their parents, but the damage was done. Judge Morrison looked grim. He called another recess to review all the evidence. We waited for an hour. Harper was getting restless, asking when we could go home. I didn't know how to tell her. We might not be going home together. Finally, we were called back. Judge Morrison cleared his throat. I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony carefully. This is a difficult case. Mr. Anderson clearly loves his daughter, but there are concerning patterns here. The child's behavioral issues, the school incidents, the social isolation, the emotional enmeshment, noted by the social worker. My heart stopped. I'm granting temporary custody to Harold and Carol Anderson, pending a full custody evaluation. Harper will reside with her grandparents for the next 60 days while we conduct a comprehensive assessment. Mr. Braden Anderson will have supervised visitation twice per week for 2 hours each visit. No, I said. No, please. Harper looked at me, confused. What does that mean? The court's decision is final, Judge Morrison said. Bailiff, please facilitate the transfer. Harper realized what was happening. She started crying. Daddy, no. I want to stay with you. I grabbed her hand. Harper, it's okay. It's just for a little while. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. A bailiff gently separated us. Harper was screaming now, reaching for me. Daddy, Daddy, don't let them take me. My mother came forward, crying. Harper, sweetie, it's going to be okay. You're going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa for a bit. I don't want to, Harper sobbed. I want my daddy. The bailiff carried her toward my parents. Jason was smirking. Courtney looked satisfied. My father's face was impassive. I tried to follow, but another bailiff stopped me. Sir, you need to stay back. That's my daughter. Sir, the judge has made his ruling. Marcus grabbed my arm, holding me back. Don't make it worse, he said. Don't give them ammunition. I watched helplessly as Harper was taken away, still crying, still calling for me. The last thing I heard was her voice echoing down the courthouse hallway. Daddy, please, don't let them take me. Then she was gone. Marcus drove me home. I sat in the passenger seat, numb. I couldn't feel anything. It was like my body had shut down to protect itself from the pain. What do we do now? Marcus asked. I don't know. My apartment was exactly as we'd left it that morning. Harper's cereal bowl was still in the sink. Her backpack was by the door. Princess, the stuffed cat, sat on the couch where she'd left her that morning. Everything was here except Harper. Aunt Patricia came over. She held me while I cried. Marcus made phone calls, updating the family. Jessica showed up with food I couldn't eat. People kept saying things would be okay, but their voices sounded hollow. By 11 o'clock, I'd sent everyone home. I couldn't stand the pity in their eyes anymore. I couldn't stand the helpless sympathy. I sat in Harper's room. Her bed was made, the purple comforter with stars on it that she loved. Her drawings covered the walls. Her books were stacked on the night shelf. Everything was here, waiting for her. But she wasn't coming home. I thought about leaving town, just packing up and driving until I ran out of gas, finding some place where my father's money and connections couldn't reach me. But that would mean never seeing Harper again. That would mean giving up completely. At 11:47, headlights swept across my living room window. I barely registered it at first. Then I heard a car door close. Footsteps on the sidewalk outside. I walked to the window and looked out. My mother was getting out of her car. She was alone. She was carrying a large manila envelope and a shoebox. Even from the window, I could see she was crying. She walked up to my door and knocked. For a moment, I considered not answering. What could she possibly have to say that would matter now? She'd stood by while they took my daughter. She'd let my father do this. But something in the way she was crying made me open the door. Mom? I'm so sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. You took my daughter. I know. Her voice broke. And I can't live with it. I won't. She pushed past me into the apartment. Her hands were shaking as she set the envelope and shoebox on my kitchen table. What is this? Evidence, she said. Evidence that changes everything. I stared at her. What are you talking about? She opened the envelope with trembling fingers and pulled out papers. Lots of papers, printouts, photos, documents. I've been recording your father, she said. For the past month. Every conversation. Every plan. Every manipulation. She spread the papers across my table. I recorded him coaching Jason and Courtney on exactly what to say in court. I recorded him offering Lauren the money and telling her exactly what testimony he needed. I have emails between him and Graham Sterling planning the entire case. Why would you record this? Because I knew it was wrong. She wiped her eyes. I've been trapped in this marriage for 43 years, Braden. Your father controls everything. The money, the decisions, who I'm allowed to see. When I wanted to invite you and Harper to Thanksgiving, he forbade it. When I tried to stop the custody case, he threatened to divorce me and leave me with nothing. Then why didn't you do something sooner? Because I was afraid. She looked at me with red, puffy eyes. I've been afraid my whole life. But today, watching Harper torn away from you, seeing the terror in her eyes, I couldn't do it anymore. I can't be complicit in this. She reached for the shoebox and opened it. Inside were dozens of items I hadn't seen in years. Letters I'd written as a child about wanting to be a teacher and help kids. Photos of me holding baby Harper in the hospital, my face full of love and wonder. Drawings Harper had made over the years that she'd given to my mother. Your father threw these away, she said. All of them. He threw them in the trash like they meant nothing. But I saved them. I've been saving things for 35 years, hiding them where he wouldn't find them. She pulled out more papers from the bottom of the box, old photos showing bruises on her arms, a journal documenting years of my father's controlling behavior, letters to lawyers she'd never sent, inquiring about divorce. This is who Harold really is, she said. A man who controls through fear and manipulation. A man who will destroy anyone who doesn't conform to his vision. I let him control me for decades, but I won't let him destroy you and Harper. What are you doing, Mom? I'm leaving him. Tonight? I've already packed a bag. It's in my car. She met my eyes. I'm testifying to the truth. I'm giving you all of this evidence, and I don't care what it costs me anymore. He'll take everything from you. Let him. She laughed bitterly. He's already taken everything that matters. My dignity, my relationship with my son, my relationship with my granddaughter. What else is there? I looked at the papers spread across my table. Recorded conversations. Emails. Text messages. It was damning. It proved perjury, witness tampering, fraud. Mom, this could send him to jail. Good, she said fiercely. Maybe that's where he belongs. I picked up one of the transcripts. It was a recording of my father talking to Graham Sterling, Harold's voice. We need to make Braden look unstable. Get the ex-wife to say he was obsessive and controlling. Make it seem like Harper's issues are his fault. Sterling's voice. I can work with that. How much are you offering the ex-wife? Harold. 50,000. She's desperate enough to take it. There were dozens of conversations like this. My father and Sterling planning every move. My father coaching Jason on testimony. My father telling Courtney exactly what phrases to use. Why did he do this? I asked. Why does he hate Harper so much? He doesn't hate her, my mother said. He hates what she represents. Imperfection. Something he can't control. Your father built his entire identity on being the strong patriarch of a perfect family. Harper doesn't fit that image, so she has to be fixed or removed. I sat down heavily. This is enough to overturn the ruling. It's enough to destroy him, my mother said. And I'm ready to watch it happen. I called Robert. He answered on the second ring. Groggy. Braden? It's almost 1 a.m. I have new evidence. Major evidence. We need to file an emergency motion. What kind of evidence? The kind that proves perjury and witness tampering. I'll be at your apartment in 20 minutes. While we waited, my mother sat at my table, crying quietly. I'm sorry I didn't do this sooner. I'm sorry I let it go this far. Why now? Why tonight? Because I saw Harper's face. She looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was someone who'd betrayed her, and she was right. I did betray her. I betrayed both of you. She looked up at me. But I'm done betraying the people I love to protect a man I don't even like anymore. Robert arrived with another lawyer, a woman named Jennifer Hayes who specialized in emergency custody motions. They spent 2 hours going through all the evidence my mother had brought. The recordings, the emails, the documents. When they finished, Jennifer looked stunned. This is the most clear-cut case of fraud and perjury I've ever seen, she said. Judge Morrison is going to be furious. They filed the emergency motion at 3 a.m. through the court's electronic system. By 6 a.m, we had a hearing scheduled for 10 o'clock. I called Marcus. We got her back. We're getting Harper back. My mother stayed at my apartment. She slept on my couch for a few hours. When she woke up, she looked different. Lighter somehow, despite her puffy eyes and exhausted face. We drove to the courthouse together. Robert, Jennifer, my mother, and me. Marcus met us there with Aunt Patricia. When we walked into the courtroom, my father was already there with Graham Sterling. His face went pale when he saw my mother with me. "Carol," he said, "what are you doing?" "The right thing, Harold." Finally, Judge Morrison entered. He looked annoyed at having to come in for an emergency hearing. Then Jennifer started presenting the evidence. The recordings played in open court. My father's voice filled the room, cold and calculating, planning every aspect of the case, offering Lauren money, coaching witnesses, discussing strategy with his lawyer in ways that were clearly unethical. Judge Morrison's face turned red. Sterling tried to object, tried to explain, but there was no explaining this away. When the recordings finished, Judge Morrison looked at my father with disgust. "Mr. Anderson, these recordings demonstrate clear witness, tampering, and fraud upon this court." He turned to Sterling. "And Counselor, these conversations suggest serious ethical violations." "Your Honor," Sterling started, but Morrison cut him off. "I'm ordering an immediate investigation into your conduct. You're suspended from practicing in this courtroom pending review." He turned to my father. "As for you, Mr. Anderson, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. You deliberately and systematically corrupted these proceedings." Then he looked at me. "Mr. Braden Anderson, I'm issuing an emergency order reversing yesterday's custody ruling. Your daughter will be returned to you immediately." My mother started crying. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. "Furthermore," Judge Morrison continued, "I'm issuing a restraining order. Harold Anderson is not to come within 500 feet of Braden Anderson or Harper Anderson. Any violation will result in immediate arrest." My father stood up. "Your Honor, that's my granddaughter. That's the granddaughter you tried to steal through lies and manipulation. You don't get to see her anymore." Court dismissed. The bailiff brought Harper in. She'd been waiting in a side room with a social worker. When she saw me, she ran across the courtroom and threw herself into my arms. "Daddy, I've got you, baby. I've got you. You're coming home." "Really? For real?" "For real." She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Then she saw my mother standing nearby, looking uncertain. Harper pulled back from me and looked at her grandmother. "Grandma, you're crying." "Yes, sweetheart." "Are you sad?" "No," my mother said. "I'm happy. I'm happy you're going home with your daddy where you belong." Harper considered this. "Can you come with us?" My mother looked at me. "Can I?" "Yes," I said. "You can." Outside the courthouse, photographers were snapping pictures. Someone had tipped off the local news about the case. My father's construction company was well known in town. This was going to be a huge scandal. I didn't care. I had my daughter back. We drove to my father's house under police escort to collect Harper's things. My father wasn't allowed to be there. A police officer supervised while we packed up Harper's clothes and toys. Harper held Princess tight. "I missed my room, Daddy. I missed my bed. You'll sleep in your own bed tonight, I promise." My mother packed her things too. She'd been married to my father for 43 years. She left with 2 suitcases and didn't look back. The next week passed in a blur. The district attorney filed charges against my father for perjury and witness tampering. Graham Sterling was disbarred. Jason distanced himself from the whole thing, suddenly claiming he'd been manipulated by our father too. My mother filed for divorce. She moved into a small apartment across town. She came over for dinner 3 times that week. Harper was cautious with her at first. But slowly, over shared meals and quiet conversations, they started to build something new. Something real. Christmas came. We decorated a tree together, the 3 of us. Harper hung ornaments while my mother and I strung lights. We played Christmas music and drank hot chocolate and laughed. On Christmas Eve, Harper was tucking in Princess for bed when she asked, "Is Grandma going to stay now?" My mother, who was helping me clean up dinner dishes, smiled. "If you'll have me. I'm learning how to be the grandmother you deserve." Harper hugged her. "I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweetheart, so much." After Harper went to bed, my mother and I sat on the couch. The Christmas tree lights twinkled in the corner. "Thank you," I said, "for everything. I should have done it sooner. You did it when it mattered most." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I lost 43 years being afraid. I'm not going to lose any more. Later, I tucked Harper into bed. She looked up at me with those hazel eyes that changed color in different light. Daddy, are they ever going to try to take me away again? Never. I promise. You're stuck with me forever. Good, she said, yawning, because you're the best daddy in the whole world. I kissed her forehead and turned off the light. As I stood in her doorway watching her drift off to sleep, I thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the betrayal, the fear, the fight, J, 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 J. But also the victory, the truth, the family that showed up when it mattered. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. Sometimes standing up for what's right means losing people you love. But keeping your integrity, protecting the people who matter most, that's what real strength is. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart. Harper was safe. She was home. She was loved. And that's all that mattered. I stood there for a long time, watching my daughter sleep, grateful beyond words that she was mine and I was hers, knowing that nothing and no one would ever come between us again. The fight had been brutal. The cost had been high. But we'd won, and I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to fight for someone you love? Have you ever stood up against people who were supposed to be on your side? How did you find the courage to keep going when everything seemed impossible? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else who's facing their own impossible fight right now. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you that love and truth can win even when the odds seem insurmountable, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding the strength to overcome them. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone in their struggles. Thank you for listening to Harper and my story. I hope it reminds you that, no matter how dark things get, there's always a reason to keep fighting for what matters most. Take care of each other out there. And remember, the best family is the one that shows up when you need them most.